Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today at 9 a.m. in the morning. It's really appreciated. I'm Michael Araka. I am the board chairman of the board of directors here at the museum. And together with me are friends and colleagues from the board, from our key leadership team and other areas of the staff, and we're really here to welcome you. We have a lot of exciting things happening that we're going to talk to you about today. We've got about an hour together. It should be plenty of time. We'll have room at the end for questions, but I'll take you through some slides that I think tell a really nice story. So let me start with just an overview of how the organization is structured, right? And other parts of the presentation I'll touch on this, so it's important to start here. So we have the foundation at the highest level in the organization, and under that we've got two branches. There's one that's focused on the nonprofit side of the business, the museum, right? And then there's another side that focuses on the for-profit side of the business through the holding company. And under the holding company, you've got the insurance division, you've got Motorsports Park, right? So it's an interesting dynamic for us, especially as a board, as a leadership team. You know, it's almost like our brains have to think in two ways, right? There's parts of us that think more on the nonprofit side and then parts of us on the for-profit side, but it's a really interesting collection of entities within the organization. Here's an org chart of our board and also our committees. So there's a lot happening on this picture. But let me summarize it as follows. There's 13 of us on the board. Our bylaws allow us to have as many as 15 people, but we're operating with 13 people. It's been a really great and effective size for the board. I really am happy to say I feel we're working really well together. We're working well with the staff. We're helping to sort of define and implement a vision for the museum that's always based on growth and expansion and the membership. So there's a lot of exciting things we're doing here. We've also, as of January, recognized committees a little differently. So the committees are a really effective tool for us. They allow us to really have the deeper conversations that we need to address as a board, but we do it in close conjunction with the staff in different areas or specialty areas. And then after those deeper conversations happen, recommendations come out of the committee for consideration at the board level. So it's a really effective way to work together, to collaborate, and ultimately to make our decisions as a board as effective and as efficient as possible. We also have advisory committees, standing committees, ad hoc committees. So standing committees, let me start there, are probably, what you might think of typically with the board, right? This is part of the fabric of the board's structure, things like how we oversee or discuss finances, for example. We have an executive committee, a nominating committee. These are things that are part of the fabric of the board, right? As of January, we started to recognize advisory committees, and this is something that within the state of Kentucky means something. There's a difference between what a standing committee and what an advisory committee is. But the advisory committees, as the name suggests, are meant to provide advice, right? And advise on certain key decisions and certain directions. But it also allows us, because of the differences in how the law recognizes these committees, we can have more committees, but with a smaller group of board members, right? Because standing committees, there are certain rules that say you have to have a certain number of board members in every committee, where that's not the case in advisory committees. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. We also have an ad hoc committee. Right now we have one, and these are pop-up committees that we could sort of stand up and spin down as we need to address a certain topic. So the big one here is the collections building. We're going to spend some time talking about that. But at the board level, we organized a committee that's dedicated to that project, and when that project concludes, the committee also dissolves. So it's another tool that we have to use. As a board and our committees, our staff, we're organized around a North Star, if you will, right? This is where we want to go with the museum. These are things that we want to do. They're our core objectives. So let me start at the top with AAM accreditation. This is the American Alliance of Museums. To be accredited through AAM is a big deal. It's a lot of work. It takes years to get there. They analyze everything from our business processes to how we manage facilities, how we manage the artifacts. You have obviously vehicles, but even non-vehicle assets, the collections. They analyze every aspect that you could possibly imagine about the museum. And like I said, it's a multi-year effort, and we're almost there. We're very close to achieving this. And ultimately, it really elevates the level at which this museum operates. And publicly, it's looked at very favorably to see that a museum has AAM accreditation. It may even help us to qualify for certain grants at the national level, the state level, regional level. So it could open up some good doors for us. Becoming a cherished community asset, that's key for us. And you could really interpret the word community in two ways, right? There's the community, the local community here in Bowling Green. You know, we want to be good citizens of the community, have great relationships with people here, with businesses here, municipalities, and agencies like the tourism board, right, or the Chamber of Commerce. So expanding and helping within Bowling Green and helping this community grow is an important goal of ours. But then there's also community in a sort of larger virtual sense, that we're all part of a Corvette community, right? And there are things that we want to do and always do, keep top of mind to be a cherished asset in your eyes and within this Corvette community. Growth and diversity in our revenue streams. This is something that's a really important thing for us. Now, we're a business that has to be sound financially, naturally, right? We are putting a lot of thought into how we could diversify revenue streams. You know, there are new areas of business, right? New lines of business that we could consider, new things to help bring some money into the museum. So this is, we've even organized within the committees at the board level, a growth and innovation committee that is really almost like a research and development kind of thing. It's where the ideas come, we're kicking tires, trying to find things that might work, and things that look like they'll work. Then we start to build business models around them through the revenue committee. So it's sort of baked in now into our processes at the board level, and it's a key objective of the museum. Collections growth, doing that intentionally is big, right? So managing the collections is a key thing for us. We always want to make sure we bring items into the collection, whether they're vehicles or non-vehicles, things that help support the story of the museum, help support sort of where we want to take this. So there's a lot of thought put into this, into how we incorporate items into the collection. Targeting new generations. It's a very big thing for us, and we're going to talk about that a little later. There's some things that we're doing that I think are really cool. I always look at it like if I could get my teenage kids to be excited to come to the museum, then we're doing something right. And that's sort of the way some of the thinking is framed. You know, how do we appeal to the teenagers, the 20-something-year-olds, you know, and get them to be excited about the car, the brands, the museum? So we'll come back to that later. And developing a master campus plan. So we'll also spend some time on that. This has been a vision for this museum for many, many years. And it's really, since its inception, it's always been in a state of growth, right, and expanding. But over recent years, you know, there's been this idea of expanding a campus and really trying to have a campus feel. And we've taken the first step towards actually implementing that plan through the collections building, right? So we'll spend some time on that, but a big goal of ours. Our membership has grown. This is something we're really proud of. I mean, I don't know if many of you know this, but do you realize we're over 46,000 people now, our membership? That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And if you take a look at how we've grown over the past 2 years, since last year, we're a little over 8% in membership growth, but if you look at the past 2 years, we're 20%. More than 20% growth. That's just incredible. It's outstanding. And naturally, most of the growth happens here in the United States, of course, but one of the things that we're seeing that's kind of interesting is interest in the museum from outside the U.S., right? And we've got some ideas on how to even encourage more of that. But we're starting to see people in Europe. We even now have a club in Italy. We have an ambassador in Italy. That's new, right? So there's a whole other audience, too, that we could start to appeal to. And I think, you know, we've got some ideas on how to do that. The annual report for 2025 is now available. So you can get it. It's available on the website. If you are a lifetime member or a donor, you'll also get a paper copy sent to you. But this goes through things. What's that? We also have copies in the back. Oh, thank you. We have copies in the back of the room, apparently. Thank you, Ryan. So, if you can, you should take a look at this. You'll go through the financials. I'm going to go through some of that now, but you'll get even more detail here. I would just say that just know that the financials that are reported here are what you might think of as the unaudited financials. Later, with our 990 submission, we have audited financials, so sometimes there's a little difference in how the numbers are reflected, but it still gives you a great sense of how we're doing financially as an organization. You'll see other things in there too about the exhibitions and members, and we've recognized donors in there. So let's dig into this a little bit. So this graph shows how we're doing financially and how we've been doing over the past 3 years, right? I'll focus on the right side because that's the most recent set of financials from 2025. So the museum has brought in $22.5 million in revenue, right? It's a great year. Our holding company, remember that's the for-profit side of the business, has brought in nearly $9 million in revenue. So great numbers. If you look at the expenses related to those businesses at the museum, we've got roughly $20.5 million in expenses and nearly $7 million in expenses for the holdings company. If we take that down, let's look at our total revenue. Okay, we'll break this down in a couple of different ways. Let's just start with total revenue for the organization. You can see there's a handful of categories that sort of represent the majority of all this revenue. So retail, that's not just the retail that we have here in the physical store if you go to the Corvette store, but it's even the online retail. So if you go to corvettestore.com and you purchase there, it's all recorded here. So retail is nearly a quarter of the revenue, right? Next, the category just says all other. Might not sound that interesting, but it's mostly based on the investments that we make as a museum. And we've really had a great success with the investments that we've made. So, we're responsible for the money that we manage, for the money you donate. We invest that in very sound ways, typically conservative ways, but lucrative ways. And we've been doing really well with that. Our raffles and sweepstakes has been an outstanding program for us, right? So that's been a big deal. You can see that. It's nearly a fifth of the revenue. And admissions, naturally, a very large segment. And you can see the other items that are in there. Now, revenue at the museum, we kind of think of in two different categories. Is what you might think of as earned revenue. That means we sold a good or service, right? And we received money in return. Or there's contributed revenue. The contributed revenue is at, typically donations, but we've received, money and recorded it that way. So we're gonna split both of these up. If you look just at earned revenue and you see how that revenue is broken down, again, you see retail and the other or investment category, typically admissions. Those are still high in the list. But I'm also excited to see delivery is starting to, is also a nice slice. I don't know if any of you have had the chance to do that. I've been fortunate to be able to do it. It's the coolest thing. You could have your car delivered here. It's on display. You'll see a number of cars there. If you ever have the chance to do it, you really should. It's just a great experience. So contributed revenue, the raffles and sweepstakes program dominates this area. It's been a really successful program for us. You could see it's 69% of the contributed revenue comes through that. The membership is 15%, very high number of donations, and also tribute. Tribute are things like buying a brick or a bench or those sorts of things we categorize as tribute. Our expenses are as follows. Payroll and benefits are naturally the largest expense that we have. I think, Bryce, we employ about 120 people. I think that's around with the number. It's a little higher than that, but we're proud to say that we employ a little over 120 people. It's great. But naturally, it's one of the highest expenses that we have as a business. The retail side also, cost of goods sold and things in retail, it bears its cost. and a handful of other things. But you get an idea where the primary costs are that we manage. So taking it down yet another level, you just get to see some of the actual numbers and categories. You'll see the total revenue is what we saw earlier on the graph. It's roughly $22.5 million in total for the museum. And store sales, admissions, the highest on the list. But look at brick and membership. That's something to be proud of. You know, bricks and membership, we brought in over $1 million last year. That's really great, right? And you could get a sense of what we do here. The investment income's there, and then also landlord and shared services. So this is an interesting thing about how we categorize revenue, because ultimately, imagine that the museum itself is also a landlord, right? And MSP is a tenant of the space that we use, and so there are certain costs, even for insurance, that we categorize as a shared service. And so we have this model internally of how we collect money for those services from those entities. Expenses are as follows. Again, expenses, the highest is payroll and benefits, almost $7.5 million. Cost of goods sold, fairly high as well. But ultimately, total expenses, $20.6 million. So in essence, for 2025, what we've earned, what we've taken back, is $1.9 million for the museum. Our assets and liabilities are certainly something worth highlighting. You know, this museum manages assets in excess of $86 million. That's just great. I mean, it's what a long way it's come. It's everything. It's everything with the building, the collections, investments. So just imagine all these $86 million is a lot. And liabilities are really low. We're a healthy company. $83 million is the net of this. It's a really great position for the museum to be in, and we're confident about the present and future sort of fiscal health of the business. This is another interesting way to look at the finances. If you look in 2026, our total cash and investments was $28.5 million, right? And that's in last year, it was $24 million and change. So over $4 million in growth in our investments in cash since last year. And one thing that's worth highlighting too is you could argue really could have been $7+ million difference, but we took $3 million to invest in the collections building next door. So we were able to fully fund internally the first phase of the project and really get things in motion. So we spent about $3 million so far towards that. Oh wait, there was one thing I wanted to say here too, actually. If you look at the bottom, it gives you an idea of what banks think of us. If a bank is willing to loan us $11.5 million, we must be doing something right? So it's a really interesting statistic that we track. Luckily we don't use that very much, but it's nice to know that we have that ability to borrow, and the banks look at us in that healthy way. And again, the line of credit and credit card debt at zero, it's incredible. It's a really great place for us to be. So let's talk about the collections facility. I think these are a couple of really interesting pictures. They're taken from drones, but it's starting to really look like a campus, right? It really is. You could see the museum, you see the collections building, you could see this vision starting to become reality, and it's really nice seeing these aerial views of the work. This is a shot of the interior. I mean, it's a massive building. This thing is 66,000 square feet. It's incredible, right? And we have so many good ideas on how to use this space. We'll talk about it a little bit, but just the fact that we have this space is it's awesome. It's going to be a beautiful building, very spacious, and very useful. So construction, we are targeting an August completion date, and then using between August and the end of the year to move in, right? It's going to take a lot of work to move the collections in there, get everything dialed in and set up. Our hope is to have public tours open right in January of the early next year. So that's what we're targeting. But even by the anniversary event, you should see basically a completed building. That should be really, really awesome to see. We also have the ability for you to see some of it, at least from the outside. So tomorrow, for a number of hours, you can see there from 10 a.m. to 1. There's a trolley that's going to go continuously from the museum to the collections building. So you could just jump on any time, go take a ride, and see the perimeter, at least the outside of the building and the campus as it's starting to evolve. It'd be really worth doing that. So some of you might remember we used to have an RV camper dealer sort of on the campus. They've moved out. So it's fresh land ready for something creative one day, right? But right now we've got a pretty cool billboard on there. It's probably the best thing you'll see from I-65. But we're really happy that this is, that we've been able to reclaim use of that land. Driven to Preserve is a new exhibit here. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it yet, but if you haven't, you should. But I think one of the really interesting things about it is it's sort of a preview of what you're going to see in the collections building in a lot of ways, right? We're starting to sort of get used to this idea that we've got cars, they're up on lifts, they sort of look like they're in storage, but they're done in a way that absolutely could be exhibited, it could be looked at, and it'll be really nice, right? So you're getting a taste of that. And the two cars on the left, are beautiful. I love C1s. I don't know if you recognize the black car, but that was the 1962 that actually was in the sinkhole. One of the coolest things I think there is about that story is that our own staff restored that. I don't know how many of you knew that, but our own staff with Dan Garrett and his team, they were able to take that car and its condition after falling in the sinkhole and bring it to what you see here. So it's an absolutely beautiful car, and I think it's amazing that we have that kind of talent and passion right here on the staff. We've also done something to help our 83 Corvette stand out, so it now has a new exhibit. It's been lifted up, make it a little easier to photograph. But this is a really great car. There's a really fun backstory to it too, but it really is, in fact, the only 1983 in existence, so it's something worth seeing if you can. We also have a way to celebrate women within the Hall of Fame. We now have a dedicated display for that. So, another great thing you could see there. I see Betty Skelton and others. I actually went, maybe some of you did too. There was a Betty Skelton presentation a couple of years ago that was really interesting. So yeah, we have her honored right there in this part of the Hall of Fame. All right, so you might remember earlier I started to say one of our goals is to try to attract younger generations, right? I don't know if you experience what I do, but with my kids, if I don't have a way to engage them on a telephone, they won't even look at the thing. So we're starting to do some things to try to digitize various aspects of the museum, and there's a lot of benefits. Let me start with this. We have this new membership portal, right? There's a number of different things in there. You could download a digital card, right, which you could use to get scans. You're a member, you could get scans here at admissions. But what's also really cool about it is you can use that to get into other museums around the country at no additional cost, because we're part of a network called NARM. I think it's a North American Reciprocal Museum. Is that right? Did I get that right? Oh, these acronyms are tough. But if it's part of the NARM network, right, you could go there with this digital key. So really excellent benefit. We also have a new loyalty rewards program, right? So you basically get points. The board members aren't allowed to have points, apparently. That's what Tim says. But no, it's a fun system. So the more you go to events, the more you purchase something here, you participate, maybe you go see or go in a museum in motion, all those things start to accrue points that then you could use. And the new member portal, this is one of the things I think is most interesting. We are working on, we're not terribly far away from releasing it, but we're working on a digital version of our collections. So every artifact that we hold, vehicle or non-vehicle, will now have a digital representation on the website or the member portal. And you can go in, obviously see different media about the car. You could read about the car, understand the history. But think of what this does for the museum. It gives us the chance to reach people that can't physically come here. I mean, in a perfect world, people would come to the museum, right? That's what we want. But if someone's in Europe, how often could they come here? Maybe if they come once in a lifetime, it's a lot, right? But if we could have a way to access the museum in a virtual manner, which is where a lot of the world's going today, then we can really start to reach a new and larger audience. So we're really excited about that. Yes. Of course you can, yeah.
So for everybody on this, I went in and loaded up a couple days ago. So the interesting part is...
She's got a portable.
So I went on and uploaded a couple days ago when they gave it to the board to look at. And the interesting part is just by being here, you check in, which I just checked in today, and you get 50 points. Now I'm on the board. I'm not sure I get anything out of it, but for y'all...
No points for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to go to lunch with Bryce because I can't seem to do that while I'm on the board. But there's a bunch of stuff. You go in to check in at the Stingray Grill. When you purchase stuff at the store, it all earns points on this. But it gives you a ton of information onto that side. So I would just encourage everybody who hasn't to go and download it, put in your information, and deal with your friends the same way, your kids, whoever you can to get on it, because it actually is a very, very great site. I'd say it's almost like the Starbucks app, only the difference is you don't get coffee.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's also take a minute to talk about the McMichael Family Education Center. So this has been an excellent addition to the museum. Thank you, Tim, Mel, and family for having made that possible. But this, honestly, this is an opportunity, again, under this theme of reaching new generations, to get Corvette fans, get museum fans early in the process, right? They come here, they could go to the education center. There's a lot of activities that they can do. Look at some of the numbers. It might be a little hard to read with the black text on red, but look at the numbers. So last year, over 7,000 students came through that education center. That's incredible, right? And they're done through field trips. Some of the field trips are self-funded. Some of them are funded through a donation program that we have. But one way or another, we got over 7,000 kids through this museum, and that education center is sort of like a portal into the Corvette world. It's where a lot of the passion starts. We also have a new photo booth. It's no ordinary photo booth. It makes special Corvette ID cards. It does it in pretty high resolutions, pretty high quality. You might see it close to the admission gates. It's been a fun addition for us. It's something that runs entirely standalone, which is nice. So it doesn't take a lot of management. We don't need dedicated staff to work the photo booth. It's a kind of thing that somebody could go and use it pretty intuitively. You can either go in the booth, or there's even like a way to take the pictures from outside the booth. It's the same functionality, but it might be a little easier for some people to do that from outside rather than cram it into the booth. But it's been a nice addition. Now look at this. This is the best part of the presentation, by the way. This is a simulation of Motorsports Park. Now, you have no idea. Wait, is there a way to pause it? Because that music's going to keep coming on. I don't know how to pause it, I'm sorry. So, our own Jake Taylor in here works for our IT group. He's a phenom. He worked on this as a bit of a side project over the course of a year. He worked really hard to create a 3D model of the racetrack, then imprint all the visuals on top of that 3D model, things like the trees, the textures, the grass, the pavement, and he basically built this model of the racetrack that you will be able to use on our simulators here, so you could actually race virtually at MSP. So this is really exciting. There is possibly the opportunity, we're looking into it, to take the work that Jake did and actually put it on one or more of the common platforms out there for simulated racing. So right now we're looking at Assetto Corsa. I don't know if anybody in here used Assetto Corsa before? Yeah, so you know. So I hope that this is available there, but just know it's not concrete. We're still looking into it, but early investigations look very promising, so that we'd be able to use this, which again would put MSP on the map. If you could get it on something like Assetto Corsa, suddenly there's people all over the world that are racing virtually at MSP, and that maybe, hopefully, one day they'll come and want to be in a real car at MSP. Okay, that's the end of the formal presentation, but now we have something very exciting. Okay, yep. So the Queen City Corvette Club has been gracious enough to make a donation to us, and they've brought 60 people, and I had to remind Ron, by the way, that it's really 61 people because I made myself a member. I'm a member of that club. But we have 60 people here. So, yeah, please come up. That'll be great. And I'm going to step down, be in the picture.
How are you? It's good to see you, man. Yes, good to see you.
Okay, so thank you again, Queen City, for being here, for making that effort to bring 60 people here, for your generous donation. Really, thank you. Thank you so much. So we're at the time in the session where we could take questions. Only easy questions, all right?
Valuing cars isn't really difficult, but how do you value the non-vehicle parts of the collection, especially paperwork, letters from, like the Dale Earnhardt letters?
Right. You might be better to take that, Bryce. Or Robert. I don't know if Robert's here. This is Robert Maxheimer. He directs all our collections group.
What a great question. So when an object, whether it's a piece of art or a vehicle or a document or a textile, enters our collection, there really isn't a monetary value to it. It's the historic value. So what we do is protect it as if it's the Declaration of the Independence. So it's that's why it's so important to have this building up here. It's going to give us the environmental and security to be able to protect these for generations to come. So. So we have values that are based for insurance, but it isn't really part of our, and Bryce probably talked about this a little bit more, but it isn't really part of our overall asset that you saw on there.
That's exactly it. So we do value for insurance, but as far as the asset list that you saw up there, the cars are not part of that. Being part of the collection, it's considered part of public trust, so we did not include that in our asset. So when you see $86 million, that's not the cars. That's truly, genuinely buildings, equipment, land, all of those pieces. That's a great question. It's kind of confusing, but the cars are not included in that number.
How many cars in that?
How many cars are in that number? None. We have 120. But they're not included in the asset number, no.
Great presentation. When will the new facility be open to the public?
Well, we're shooting for tours, right, in January of next year. In August, it'll be sort of a soft open, mostly for internal use so that we could get it all set up. We have to move the cars in and just sort of get everything right. But by January, we should be ready for public tours, right?
So
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I had a follow-up question to the value of the buildings and all that. So you said none of the cars are included. How much are the cars worth?
So, and this seems extraordinarily counterintuitive, and I'm looking at Robert because there's actually specific wording about this. When museums and places have collections, whether it's art or cars, the value of it is really only insurance only. So they don't talk about the value of them specifically because most of the time the cars were given to us, maybe 20 to 30 years after that, and then outside of that, they've never been sold, so we really don't know what the actual street value of it would be. So as you're looking at the cars and someone says, what's the most valuable car in the museum? It's truly generally the one you like the most, or in most cases we'd say it's the 83 because that's the one there's only one of, and you can't replicate it, right? So as far as an actual dollar number, we go far out of our way to ensure that people understand the value of the collection is the collection, and there's no dollar number associated with that. We would never sell them. That's not a satisfying answer, I know, but that's that's the way we try and think about the collection. Yeah.
Come into the back of the room there.
I got more of a comment than a question. Most of you probably know me and my wife, Donna. We've been around this museum for a long, long, long time. And if we had a line graph, it would be like this, like this, like this, like this. We're definitely like this now. I have to say, based on recent history, we've got a group here that is, they know what's going on. They are doing a hell of a job. It took me a while to get here, but I'm here. I'm telling you what, congratulations, guys. You guys have got it going on, dialed in. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Jack.
I was able to log in and get my museum visit points, but then I went to the bash to get 200 points for the bash, and it doesn't let you. I just thought I'd let you know.
So the Android app is being updated currently through Google Play. By the lunchtime, they say you should be able to check in. So we have, that fix is on the mend.
And thanks for downloading right away.
Hey, good morning. Great presentation. My name is John Henchy from out of Huntsville, Alabama. This is our first time here. We're highly impressed, but I did have a question as to the nature of the relationship between the museum and this body and GM and Chevrolet in particular, obviously, as well as is there any relationship with regards to developmental input, strategies, or anything like that? Or is it strictly historical? What is the nature of the relationship between GM, Chevrolet, and the museum itself?
We have a wonderful partnership. We're not owned, operated, or directly financially supported by General Motors, but they are wonderful partners with the museum. So as you look outside, those, I think it's 8 Corvettes, they bring those to display during our event for you all, but also as a benefit to the museum, right? They have around 100 employees who are going to be here over the weekend to talk to you all as customers, and then also benefits us too. So we have an absolutely spectacular working relationship with General Motors, but as far as development, no. They run Corvette, they do Corvette. If you hear one of us say, oh man, maybe a Grand Sport's coming, we don't know. We're guessing. We're just like you. We're fans also. So we don't have any inside information, but they are wonderful partners for the museum.
My question has to do with the collection facility. I was just wondering, what did you do to make sure that you don't have another cave-in?
Another sinkhole?
Yeah.
Boy, Bryce, you should probably take it, but I'll just say, boy, more work than you might realize goes into surveying that land and looking for the hot spots, but you should go into detail, yeah.
So we are in a karst topography, which means that with our limestone, water comes in and washes things away. The nice thing about that is you can detect it. Because with geotechnical, they can go in and they can actually do sonar and they can dig down and they can find those. We call them features. We don't like the word sinkholes because it gives us heartburn, but they can find those features. And so what they did is we did geotechnical on that entire plot. And then once we had the building layout, we went in and found specifically where there'd be heavy building loads and did geotechnical on that to make sure that when we put posts and pillars or even lifts in those spaces, it's one, it's going to hold it, and two, that there's nothing forming so that in 50 years we shouldn't anticipate a bigger void. So that entire plot and plat has been geotechnical and surveyed. So we should all knock on every piece of wood that we can possibly find. And I'm going to before I sit down. We did a ton of homework and a ton of work to ensure that when the cars go down there, they're going to be safe and they're going to last a lot longer than me, right? They'll be here long after I'm gone.
Yeah, hi. The new facility, are you going to do thematic stuff, kind of like last year you had the Corvette in culture, in current culture. Is there going to be like a docent or a set of docents that will take you through there and provide those kind of thematic things?
Yeah, there will be. Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just going to say it's a great opportunity. So we have 66,000 square feet there. A large majority of that is the vehicles. So we'll be able to have little areas in there where we can tell specific stories, pull out, let's say topical right now is Grand Sport. So we have a 96. We could pull out there and have a little display off to the side. Also the way that the cars are going to be on the floor and during the tour, we can tell stories that way. So it's a great space. The primary reason for it is to protect the cars, but we can also tell a lot of stories, which is really fun.
Any other questions? Yeah.
How many cars will be over there?
How many cars do we have now in collection?
How many will be in the collection?
Yes.
Day one.
Yeah,
So on day one, we'll have approximately 100. On day one, we'll have approximately 100 Corvettes in the building. And so that building, when you go in it or when you see it, it's very, very large. It was built specifically to grow with the museum. So when we bring a car in, and we say no to more cars than we say yes to. As we do intentional collections growth, we're extremely specific on what cars we bring in because we want to make sure we have them for forever, right? That we're not going to get a better example. So we know how many cars we're bringing in a year, so that building will grow with us for 30 years worth of growth. So on day one, it'll be approximately 100, but after 30 years, we expect to be around 242 cars in that facility. So those, and I'm going to steal Robert's line, and I'm so sorry, but I loved it when you said it yesterday. The cars are the biggest thing in the collection, but we have the smallest number of them in the collection. So in that building, we'll have 242 Corvettes, but we'll have 1 million plus pieces of what we call macro, body panels, pictures, artwork, dashboards, clay models, die casts. So there's a lot more of that stuff, but what takes up the most space is, of course, the car. So on day 100, up to 242 after 30 years of growth.
Hey, can I just real quick? We have our collections teams in the back. Katie, Madison, Sharon, Dan Garrett's our preservation lead, and then our exhibits team with Brian and Caitlin. Could y'all stand up real quick? So over the next couple of days, if you see them in the gallery, you see them on the boulevard, they're really the heart and soul of this. They've been doing just a fantastic job with planning this. Ask them questions. They love to talk and talk about this collections building. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. They're a great team. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, we have 123 cars in our collection. Right now, we have about 64 on display, which is a lot. A lot of that is in Driven to Preserve because we have them stacked. But yes, we'll have quite a few cars on display.
If you're doing the math on that, the balance is cars that were loaned to the museum. So as you're saying, we have 125 in the collection, 100 will be down there, and we have 65 in the museum. We have a lot of cars that are on loan, and that's the ones that make up the balance. I should also note that the collections facility is truly, genuinely, this isn't a vanity project for the Corvette Museum. This is an infrastructure project for the Corvette Museum. It's going to allow us to grow. This is how we continue to expand and bring the level of collections and museum standards that you all deserve. So if you're interested in it, if you're interested in the collections facility and more information, please hop on or hop off the trolley. You can go see the membership tables. You still can donate towards this collections facility. We're going to have a donor wall down there where if you do $1,000 or more, your name is on the wall forever, and we have different tiers. Or if you want to give even less than that, we are, like I said, it is a piece of infrastructure for the museum, and so if you want to contribute to it, please come see me or Amy or anybody at the membership tables, or you can scan the QR codes on the renderings, either in Driven to Preserve or on the renderings on the boulevard.
Will the cars in the collection all be donated, or will some be on loan in the new facility?
So the cars that'll be in the building, we'll have some cars down there that are on loan. Our partnership with GM, the Heritage Collection, but we treat them as if they're one of our own cars. So they'll be down there and protected just like the other cars in our collection.
I was just curious, when somebody donates a car to you and it needs some repairs, those kind of things, do you do the repairs here or do you hire that stuff out? And the second part of that question is, have you thought about setting up a facility strictly to rebuild people's cars? I know John Deere has done that with their tractors, where right. If you got an old tractor, they'll bring it back to new condition.
Right.
I'll speak to that first part. The most exciting, one of the most exciting parts of this building is that we have about 4,500 square feet dedicated to preservation. So in there we'll have 2 4-post lift, 2 post lift, and then all of the equipment needed to help preserve these cars. When you go through the gallery, which everyone will go through the gallery, I hope, and Driven to Preserve, there's a 58, a silver blue 58. That's going to be one of the first projects. So that'll be a full body-off preservation effort, just like the Zora 74 that we have in there, along with the Black Rose Metallic ZR1 in the Sky Dome. Those were all done in-house by our preservation team. So we'll be able to do that here. As far as being able to work on other people's cars, we've got our hands full. We're going to work on a preventative maintenance schedule, so these cars will all rotate through that preservation bay and have fluids checked and run at temperature to make sure all the seals and everything sets right, and then put back into the collection, along with the cars that are donated yearly. So we've got quite a bit going on right now.
We have floated an idea. Now keep in mind, it's just an idea, right? But we've had this idea maybe to do something a little different through the education program, where maybe we could partner with a trade school that rebuilds cars, right? And do something joint with the museum and the school. We've been floating around that idea a little bit, and it would be a lot of fun to do that. Maybe one day.
Robert, mostly a question for you. Your team, how long you been working on the design for this? And I'm not talking about the brick and mortar part of it. I'm talking about the internal part. You must have started on that 10 years ago. I don't know, a long time ago to get to the point. And I imagine it's still kind of a fluid design until you get actually putting stuff on the floor.
That's a great question. And at 11:30, we have a whole talk about a glimpse behind the scenes of what it's taken to get that building up. Part of what I say is it looks like it just bloomed, out of the ground, and one day it appeared. But Bryce can attest to the fact that it's been several years of designing and planning and locations and plans, and even now, as we've locked in the final design, we're working internally on how we're actually going to put the cars out, where the shelving is going to go, how those 4-post lifts are going to be locked in there in the preservation area. So it's an effort that will probably always be, like you said, it's fluid. So, but join us at 11:30 right here. We'll go over all the details.
Yeah, admission to the collection building, will that be separate from museum, or can you buy a combination ticket, or how's that going to work?
It'll be a combination ticket. So since it will require additional staffing, we won't allow people just to walk through that building unsupervised. I say unsupervised. It'll all be guided tours. So we'll have a guide. So it'll just be like the guided tour here is here, we're a nominal fee, and you'll get to walk through the facility with a guide. They'll tell you the stories. And that's what we're most excited about, because in the museum we have 65 cars, but on day one, that's 100 additional engineering stories we get to tell. That's 100 additional stories we get to tell. A lot of cars that we get, the husband and wife went on their first date 50 years ago in it, right? So we get to tell those types of stories. So it'll all be guided for additional, because we have to have that additional staff.
You talk about the cars from GM Heritage. How do you interface with them as to what cars are here, what cars go back? Who decides when you're going to have them and what?
Right. Robert, do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, that's typically based on the exhibitions that we have in the gallery. So if we're telling the story of early design, we would have the Astro 2 from the Heritage Collection up here, which we did for a long time. Right now it's the Aerovet. So we work closely with them as we're designing and developing these exhibitions to see what they have available so that we can put them in there.
They've got a lot of cars.
They have a lot of cars. They do, yeah. And a lot of really great historic vehicles. And like I said, our partnership with them is pretty fantastic. So we're lucky to have that with them.
First, I want to say I think it's just wonderful that you have the foresight to turn the storage expense into an income revenue by displaying the collection. My question is, do you have a wish list of cars that you're out there looking for that you'd like to add to the collection?
Short answer is yes. There is a dream list, and we work on that, and it's something that evolves. But as we have intentional collections growth, we have a internal collections committee. So as cars come up for donation, we really scrutinize those cars. We reference our dream list. We reference the needs of the collection, of exhibitions. So it's a constantly evolving list of cars that we need. If anybody has a 63 Grand Sport, please let me know. That's right there at the top. So.
Is there any other questions? Or maybe I could quickly make a comment, maybe, and ask. If you're interested, you have the opportunity to be on our donor wall at the new building. So if you'd like to do that, it's a minimum commitment of $1,000, but it could be a nice way to be on that wall and be named. So if you're considering that, we could talk to any of us, or Amy Harden, who I think is here somewhere. Yep, there's Amy. So talk to any of us if you're interested in that. That kind of support would mean a lot to us, and it could be fun for you to be part of the historic building.
And if you do the donation towards the collections facility, it does count towards your winner circle. So if you're already part of our winner circle, if you make it towards that building, we love an additional gift, don't get me wrong. But it does count towards your annual winner circle totals. Winner circle is still something extraordinarily important to us. That is our group of our most dedicated and loyal donors. So it does count towards those totals.
All right. Any other questions? We've got a few minutes. But if not, thank you. Thank you for spending this time with us this morning.